I would say my work environment has changed throughout my career, from, either working in Hollywood, which is you're in the Hollywood ecosphere and the Hollywood system, versus having my own production company or studio that I work in. And just really briefly, the time that I spent in Hollywood was difficult because you don't have a set job, and so you have a job that's for a period of time, and like you might get hired for this job which is a week long, and then the next one you might get hired for one that's a 2-month job. And if you're really, really fortunate, you can get on a series where you stay on the 1-year contract for the series. But it was a lot of flux and not a lot of stability. Perhaps if I was a bit younger at that time, because by the time I'm in Hollywood, I'm already 27 years old. And so maybe and I had a family. So maybe if I was a bit younger, I would have thought of it as exciting. And just the constant changes in the day to day. But as someone who's got a family and you have to provide for them, I needed some stability. And so that type of environment was difficult. It was also a bit difficult for me as someone who tries his best to be on a spiritual path, because Hollywood's not really concerned with that. Hollywood's concerned with money. And also it was difficult in someone who's concerned with the artistic integrity as well. A lot of Hollywood is based on, it's a business. And so it's based on money. And so it's not the most ethical show that's going to get made. Sometimes it's just the show that's going to make the most money. And so that was my environment there. And I preferred the studio environment. And so now, like here in Istanbul, I have my own studio. And it's great because you can set the day however you want. Like we start our day at 9:30. For the first half an hour, while we're on the clock, it's silent reflection. And so people can read Quran, they can read any literature that they want, they can do research, they can do studies, they can just sit in quiet reflection. But on the clock, we do that, and that's how we start our day. And then we start our day with like a dua or something like that, and then just go about our day. I'm smiling because I feel like we cheat. It's like it's not really a job. It doesn't feel like a job because there's so much freedom. Every day is different. Some days you're out shooting with this type of character and you're learning about their story. Some days you're traveling to Malaysia to go for 2 weeks to shoot this project. It really, really is an exciting career. And so, I don't think I could sit at a desk at this point, like in a cubicle, which I have in the past. I think it would be too difficult for me because I'm just so used to the adventure of what we do. And so some of the instability of the industry, of not knowing where the next job's going to come, it's kind of covered by the excitement and the internal fulfillment that you get. And if you're smart about it, and now it's different now. Like I have gray hairs. I'm an old man at this point, right? But when I was younger, there was no YouTube. There was no Netflix. There was none of this was there. And so, but now there's all these different career paths that weren't available to me. And so you can do a career path in social media. You can become a videographer, immediately, and get hired at a company with a good salary, immediately, which is, I didn't have that experience. And so when I was coming up, you really had to try to find a way to do it. But now for like the younger generation coming up, there's so many career paths that are available in media, especially since the world has kind of locked itself down due to COVID-19. Everything has moved online. And so if you're a media producer at this time in the digital media sphere, there's multiple avenues for you in terms of career path. I'm speaking particularly as a filmmaker, right? Because that's what I do. I make films, but these same skill sets that are required to make a good film are the same skill sets that are needed to work for a nonprofit organization on their media team, or in a corporate function on their marketing team. These same skill sets that you get when you do a university degree in fine arts. There's so many different career paths that are available for people now. Advantages of the job is that it's exciting. It's I'm like I said, I'm an old man now. I'm 47 years old. I love going to work. Like I don't have that experience of waking up in the morning like, gosh, I got to go in today. Let me find an excuse to call in sick. I want to get to work. It's annoying for my wife and for my family because I love it so much and I spend so much time at work because of it. But you're there, you get to go and you get to create something that wasn't created before. You can come up with an idea and then you can manifest it and then you can see the fruits of that, immediately. And then if that doesn't work, you could, okay, scratch that. I'm going to try it again. I'm going to do this one. And that's part of their career path. And so it's encouraged. Like we always say, fail fast, fail first, right? That means just do it, just try it. And if it doesn't work, explore another path. And so I think the most exciting thing about the career is that. I would say probably the most daunting thing about their career, depending on where you're at in the path, is that it's not a set career like being a doctor or lawyer or engineer. The industry will change based on the world, the way the world changes, and you have to be willing to kind of go with that flow. And so if you're someone who's like more rigid, more kind of analytical, more linear, it might be a difficult experience. But if you're someone who's maybe a little bit more carefree, and maybe a little bit more creative, it's I can't help but smile because it's like sometimes I can't believe people pay me to do what I do. Like I would do this for free. Like this would be what I would choose to do every day anyways. Like if I didn't make money, I would still love to go to the studio and create art. And so the fact that I get paid to do it and I can support my family and, we're living in a beautiful country and I get to work with my children as well. So like my children have grown up in the arts. And so my director of photography is my eldest son. My daughter is my editor. My middle son is my photographer. And it's like a family business now. So I get to see my family at work. So I don't know. I don't really have any negative parts to it. I love it. It's everything I wanted to do. And I feel like in many ways, I'm living my dream. Qualities that someone has to have to do this is you absolutely have to be creative. You have to be someone who's creative, and it's okay if you're not, right? But it just means that this probably isn't the career path for you. This is a career path that requires creativity. You have to be patient. You have to be ambitious, and you have to be well-rounded. You have to be able to do more than one thing. It's not like, if I go to med school and then I specialize now as in cardiology. And so I just have to focus on the heart. I'm not going to be an ENT. I don't have to know about the ears, nose, and throat because my focus is this. This is a career path where you have to know multiple trades. You have to have a little bit of design. You should probably know how to write pretty well. You should be good visually because filmmaking is a visual art form. And so you should understand the aesthetics of photography and film and how to frame and compose a shot. You should also know how to edit as well. And so there's multiple things that you should have in terms of talent to be able to do this path. But I think the most important thing is you should love it. That's one, you should love it. You should be creative, and you should be a bit of adventurous. Like this isn't something that I think if you're not adventurous that many people could do because of the uncertainties of I'll explain that maybe a little bit better. As a documentary filmmaker, I'm dealing with real life. And the way it works is you have an idea for a project, you pitch that project. There's a company, organization, individual, or studio that wants you to produce this film. And so they basically, even though you're running your own production company, you need funding to do it. And so they're going to fund you to make your film. With documentary, you can't promise what's going to happen in real life. And so there's a bit of angst that's involved. Like, okay, I promise that I'm going to do my best to tell this story about this character, and this is what I think this is going to happen with this character. But if their life takes a turn, you have to take that turn with them. And that might not be what the funders wanted with the film. And so the element of failure is always there because you're dealing with real life. And so there's a bit of stress that's involved with it when the money comes involved. For anyone who's interested in this as a career path, the beautiful thing about this is there's the barriers to entry are very low, right? Again, I keep using the medical career because I have a lot of friends that are doctors. Like if you want to be a doctor, to find out you don't want to be a doctor after 7-8 years of med school, right? It's pretty that's pretty bad, right? If you've gone that far and you find out like, oh wow, I don't want to be. And I have friends that have done that, and they're doctors now. They're like, oh, I wish I would have done something different. Filmmaking and media is really, really different. The point of entry is really low, so it doesn't matter how old you are. You can be 5 years old, 6 years old, 7, 10, 13, 15. It doesn't matter. Now there's like when I first started, you couldn't get your hands on a video camera. First, there were these huge, giant things that people used to carry around on their shoulders, and they were so expensive. But now you can use your phone. You can make an entire film on a phone, and it can be good. And you could take a film on a phone and literally launch your career from that. And so the point of entry for this is very low. If you want to decide that you want to be a filmmaker, make a film. Make a film. Just grab your phone and make a film. Go on YouTube, figure out how do I edit. Go on what's the editing software. You can get it for free now. You know, you can go on to any forum and find out like, how do I do this? How do I develop a character? How do I write a script? You can do all of that now, and you can do it at the age of 7, at the age of 8, and without any money. Borrow your mom's phone, borrow your dad's phone if you don't have one, and make a film. And if you do that, and then you find out in that process, like, wow, that was really exhilarating. That was really, really fun. I like doing that. Then make another one. And then do it again, then make another one. And by the time you're done with film school, your teachers are going to ask you to come teach there because you're already a filmmaker. You've already made all these things. So it's one career path where the point of entry is very, very low. You don't have to wait to make the decision. You can start right now making films. And it's important to know that some of the greatest filmmakers that we celebrate today never went to film school. They just started making films at a low point of entry, started making films, low budget, borrowing money here, putting films, stuff on their credit card to get a little bit bigger budgets, and then do it that way. So, my advice to anyone who's, especially in the West, in the United States, that wants to make a film, just make a film, and don't listen to anybody who tells you you're not qualified to make a film. None of us are qualified to make a film, no matter how much education we get, if we're being honest about it. It has to just come from you and your heart. So just get out there and do it, and just borrow whatever you need to borrow to make it happen. Have your friends act in your films for you. And you might find like, wow, I'm really, really good at this, and this is something that I should pursue. We're living in an amazing time. And that is not to undermine or to belittle the difficulty of this age, right? It's a difficult age to live in. We've got climate change happening. We have wars and famine all over the world. We have Islamophobia that's on the rise and increasing. With the last administration, and that really, really came out. And so that could get people to like kind of want to go into a shell and think like, this isn't our time as Muslims. I say it's the opposite. I say this is absolutely our time to shine bright with your Muslim identity at the forefront of it. We need people to tell our stories, especially in this career that I'm in, right? Absolutely. I'll tell you right now, one of the things that I find the most challenging for me, one of the things that I really hope to see more in the future is women in this industry to tell their own story, to not let someone like me who's old and gray tell the story of what it's like to be a Muslim woman living in the West, to tell your own stories. Now I think is the perfect time for our Muslim identity to be at the forefront to tell these stories. And I'm not just saying that. And this honestly is not just my own personal opinion. I actually have empirical proof for this. I made a film for PBS called Redneck Muslim. And it's about a man by name Shane Atkinson, who comes from a racist family in the South in Mississippi. He ends up converting to Islam and then working as a chaplain in the hospital in North Carolina. And the film is just exploring his life and his story. It was a short film that we did for PBS, and it went out on the Atlantic as well. And we're now in talks with different producers and executives who approached us, who want to turn this film into a television series now with actors. And so they want to opt the film to write a screenplay about it, to do it. But why do they want to do it? They want to do it because it's the content that is authentically Muslim. This is the story that they want to tell. And so just like things happened in 2001 when September 11th happened, Muslims, we felt like we had to go into our shell. If you look at the data and the analytics of that, more people became curious about Islam and more people converted to Islam than had converted at any time in any decade before that. So even now, when the narrative is against us, and if you turn on TV and you're always going to see things that are negative about us, I believe that we have the ability to offset that. Hollywood is in need of us to tell our stories, not the way they want us to tell them, but us to tell them authentically. And if Hollywood doesn't want that, it's okay. We'll get our phones, we'll borrow our cameras, and we'll tell our own stories, and we'll put it on YouTube, and probably more people will see it than if it was put in theaters anyways. So I think it's an amazing time for us to really, really own our Muslim identity and not shy away from it. And even with the difficulty of how people look at us and how people say us. And I'm going to say this. I'm because people are only going to see my face in this interview, but there's two wonderful young sisters that are interviewing me for this, and it's easy for me to say the things that I'm saying as a Muslim male who could shave his beard, pull off his kufi, just put on a baseball cap and go. But for a woman who's wearing hijab, you don't have that same luxury. So I'm saying all of this knowing that what I'm advocating is not simple, and it's not something that's easy to do. But if we can do it, and we can tell our own stories, and we can own our Muslim identity with izzah, right? With a type of good pride in it. I'm excited for where that's going to take us in terms of a community where and how people are going to be able to resonate and understand our stories from our perspectives.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe to State Academy for more videos like this.